Okay, on top of your mind, what do you think is the major difference between the two words? Okay, let computer leave a computer. What is the major difference between architecture and organization? What do you think?
So architecture is like the basic structure, and organization is how those structure are made to work together.
Okay, good. So can you give an example of real world? What comes into mind?
So like if you take the example of a car, then like the wheels and the structure, body and the seats are differently. Like those are architecture. And organization is how they are fit to like work on the optimal thing.
Yeah. You're getting the point. So that's always the better approach to look into the words. If those words are clear in our mind, then it is very easy for us to grasp the concept. So if we are very clear with what is an architecture, just go in a very general terms. Like if we make a building, so an architect will make the whole architecture plan of the house, like these walls will be of this much height, and these many rooms will be there, and everything will be there. But will the architect make this house? No, na. Who is going to make the house? An architect will make the architecture of the house, but who is the person who's actually going to make the house?
Civil engineer.
Yeah. So that's the basic idea behind it. If this concept is clear in your mind, then you will be able to distinguish between these two subjects in a very clear sense, because in most of the aspects these two are actually taught in culmination, that computer system architecture and organization. But these have been actually divided into two parts, because as you can clearly see, an architecture in the real world scenario, also architecture is a completely different domain, and civil engineering is a completely different domain. So the similar thing is happening here. Since computer architecture, you guys have seen how much you have studied, and that was essential for one whole syllabus. And now you can see the using of all those things into making of the various building blocks. So computer organization is the design of the components and functional blocks using which the computer systems are built. Analogy, the similar one here they are also discussing. Is it clear with everyone, this concept? Because this is a very important concept we guys need to understand, that what is the major difference between organization and architecture? Leave apart computer. Is it clear with everyone? किसी को कोई doubt है इसमें? Anyone? Anyone have any doubt between the definition of organization and architecture? Distinguishing between them?
So can you explain once again the difference?
Okay. When you make a house, what is the initial what is your initial phase? Firstly, you go to an architect and you ask the architect how your going house is going to be. You have some requirements with yourself. Okay, I need 2 or 3 rooms. I need a one-story building. I need this much of parking space. I need um, various needs you have discussed with your family mates. You have if you're designing it for yourself, you have certain needs for yourself. You are actually going to discuss this with the the architect of the house. He is going to make a whole plan of it. Have you seen an architecture's plan of the house anywhere, a demo, a photo, or anything? Have you looked at it?
Yes, sir.
How does it look like?
Map or like it
Yeah,
looks like
like
map.
some lines are there, 2D 3D lines, some maybe a perspective drawing, but mostly 2D 3D lines. uh, does it have a specific scales on it, like this much length, how room is it? Have you
Yes,
seen
sir.
it? Yeah,
Yes, sir.
so why this much of specification is there? Can you guess? इतना स्पेसिफाइड क्यों लिखा रहता है कि हाइट, इस वॉल की हाइट इतनी होनी चाहिए, इस रूम की लेंथ इतनी होनी चाहिए? व्हाई इज इट सो मच स्पेसिफाइड?
नहीं तो पता कैसे चलेगा?
हाँ, टू हैव अ वेरी क्लियर पिक्चर इन आवर माइंड, है ना? हमारे
Yes,
पास
sir.
we didn't have that much of clarity, but the architect gave us that much clarity. Why? Because he had studied this subject. He knows how to put your ideas in terms of actual numbers. Is it clear? Do you
Yes,
agree
sir.
with me? So now what happened? He has made the whole schematic diagram, the 2D diagram for it. Now he'll give that plan to you. Now you're going to take that plan. Is the architect going to make this building for you? No. Yes.
No, sir.
So you're going to take this architecture, the architecture of the house to a civil engineer. Is it right? A person who's actually going to make it. Is it right?
Yes, sir.
So that civil engineer will actually tell you the how many number of bricks will be required, what will be the foundation of the building, how much deep you need to actually go to make the foundation, how much what will be the flooring plans, how what will be the materials used. He'll give you the various choices between the materials, that you can use this, you can use that. So what is this? What is he giving you? Why is he giving you various choices? Why is he giving you various choices that you can make your house with, say, material one, material two, material three? And how is it helping you? Can you guess? क्या लगता है? Anyone? Anyone? The same thing यहाँ पे भी होगा. Organization maybe you have various registers to perform your task. You have various instruction sets to perform your task. You have various control signals to perform your task. You have various frameworks to do your thing. But now the decision will be yours to actually use which of the registers, which of the instruction sets, which of the framework to actually perform to make your computer system. The similar thing, that's why I'm telling you, if you understand in real world scenario, it will be easier for you to understand in the computer terminology. Is it clear with everyone? किसी को कोई doubt है इसमें?
It's clear, sir.
So that's why I'm asking ki, why is he giving you the various material choices for making your house? Because he knows the advantages of those, and he is clear that he can use which of the material, and he's asking you that do you have some preference for it, and then he can use certain building block for making your wall or roof or anything. So similar kind of choices you will also have, the computer or organization person will also have from various architecture levels, like the flip flops which you have used, the adders which you have used. So he can select one of them and make use of making a computer various a well performing computer system. So let's, for the completeness, for the sake of completeness, let's look at the various historical perspective, how everything evolved. I think you have seen it in your computer system architecture also. Have you seen this slide, a similar slide?
No, sir.
Okay, so then it will have some basic completeness to you, how, why we are actually studying this, what is the need for it. So yeah, initially everything was not based on registers, semiconductors, nothing. They had initially everything was based on a mechanical pulleys, levers. This is before any electronic circuit was designed. So you can imagine, you have you'll have to make a choice between all the system has to be, basically the building block of that system was pulleys, levers, and gears. This is all mechanical systems, a very initial setup of computer systems. Then during the second world war, mechanical relays were there. These were the basic building blocks of a computer system. So can do you guys have any किसी को कोई सिस्टम के बारे में पता है वर्ल्ड वॉर टू में जो बहुत फेमस हुआ था, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सर्किट से बना हुआ कंप्यूटर सिस्टम, मैकेनिकल रिलेज से बना हुआ? इट्स वेरी फेमस. It's one of the
Radar.
Yeah, some more like it was one of the major turning points in World War II.
The Enigma machine.
Yes,
Enigma
yes,
machine.
yes, yes, yes. Yeah, Enigma machine. So do you guys have any idea who made the Enigma machine?
So
Alan Turing.
Alan
Yes,
Turing.
Germans,
yes,
no?
yes. Yeah,
Alan
he
Turing
didn't.
like basically
Yeah,
cracked the.
Alan Turing made a system to break the Enigma machine. Enigma machine was used by Germans to send their cryptographic messages from one side to other side, and the Allied forces were not able to crack that message. So Alan Turing made the system to crack that Enigma machine. So it was one of the major turning points in the World War II. So you can imagine the significance of it. Yeah, the thing is that we didn't appreciate his efforts, and he died in vain. But you can imagine the contribution of this person and the contribution of the system which he has built and the significance of it over the history of on our history. So, but as the time progressed, these systems uh, have you guys seen the movie on Alan Turing? Because the system which he developed was a very huge one. So, have you guys seen the movie in which Benedict Cumberbatch was there? I guess it's a
Yes, sir.
very good movie.
Yes,
I
sir.
suggest watch it. So you, in that you can see how what was the system looking like. It was they needed to fix they need to configure it daily, and it needed to churn out the values on a daily basis. So you can imagine the extensive process that machine needs to operate. But since it was based on mechanical relays and those computations, it was very slow. So with our new modern technology, maybe breaking of an Enigma machine will be a very easier task. But in those days, it was a very hard task. So it can't be said because many cryptographic systems which are based on classical cryptography um, in modern days also with the existence of quantum computers we were not able to break some classical cryptographic systems also. Like for one example, I'll tell you, um, do you guys know about the Zodiac killer? Any idea? Have anybody heard of it? The Zodiac uh, crypto systems. It's also a movie. It's a real life thing that killer used to actually send his cryptographic messages through a which was encrypted, and till now it was not decrypted. But in this year only it was decrypted by a group of cryptographers. And you can imagine even the classical cryptography systems can actually withheld can actually withstand the modern day cryptography, modern day computation techniques and the methodologies also. So yeah, that's was just a basic insight. Then era of vacuum tubes came. In vacuum tubes, what happened is actually two electrodes were there, and signals between two electrodes were passed. So that was actually if there is no signal, that was zero. If there was a signal, that is a one. So it all happened in a vacuum environment, and that was the basic building blocks behind the first electronic computer, which was called ENIAC. Has anybody heard of the word this ENIAC? ENIAC के बारे में सुना है किसी ने? Has anybody heard about this? Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Have you guys heard of this word ENIAC?
No, sir.
No,
Okay. It was the first electronic computer. It was basically since we didn't have that much of we were not able to perform that much operations in the time of the World War because it was based on mechanical relays. Because but due to the emergence of electronic like electrode circuits, we were able to make much more complex systems. So integrations and various further complex mathematical operations were also able to perform by the ENIAC, which was based on vacuum tubes. So we'll read about it. Just a basic introduction. How does it look like? Then the semiconductor industry came into existence, and everything started going small. And it started with small scale integration, then medium scale integration, then large scale, very large scale, ultra large scale. And this is large scale. What does this large scale means? Can anybody tell me? What are we integrating in what? What is this? Why? What was small and what was it integrating in? ये small scale क्या है? Sorry.
so a small amount of transistors were present in that chip.
Yeah, on the chip. Yeah, very good. So very small number of transistors were there. Why? How we are evolving from small scale to medium scale to large scale and then ultra large scale? Can anybody guess?
We are increasing the number of transistors.
If we are increasing the number of transistors, तो फिर तो chip बहुत बड़ा बन जाएगा.
Decreasing the size of transistor.
Yes, yes. The transistor का size बहुत छोटा होता चला गया. So उसके कारण अपन उतने ही सरफेस एरिया के अंदर ज़्यादा ट्रांजिस्टर्स को accomplish कर पाए. So ये एक बहुत मेजर फैक्टर था. एक मिनट, just a minute guys, just a. Yeah, sorry for that. We were able to actually accommodate more number of transistors in the similar surface area. So that's why we were able to perform more operations and much more complex environment. So do you guys think we are in ultra large scale integration or more than that at this moment of time? We are at more better levels now because we are able to integrate more circuits, more transistors over less area still. So this was the first mechanical calculator which was invented by Pascal. Have you guys heard of this word, this person's name? Pascal. Pascal triangle पढ़ा होगा तुम लोगों ने.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, the same guy. Mechanical calculator was actually invented, and if you guys can check on the YouTube, some people actually have this system. So you can see how the addition subtractions are being performed based on some mechanical operations. There are pulleys, gears inside it. So if you add something, those pulleys and gears are actually working, and then you have an addition of two numbers and multiplication and divisions. Multiplication and division is basically by repetition of additions, and by division subtraction is by the division. So you can imagine, guys can go and check into the that YouTube videos. There are many demonstrations of it. Some people have it in their houses also. Then this Babbage engine came. The first automatic computing engine was designed by Charles Babbage in 19th century, but it was so complex that he was not able to even complete it. The first complete Babbage engine was built in, you can imagine, 2002, with 153 years after it was designed. So it was so complex. Just to prove the existence, somebody actually completed the whole design. Why it's complex? As you can see, it has 8,000 various working parts in it. It weighed 5 tons and 11 feet in length. So you can imagine, it's not even performing so much computation. So um, uh, it's like a huge system performing very less computation, but just to prove a concept that this thing can actually perform some certain computation, some guy actually made it in 2002. This is called Babbage engine. Then this is how the ENIAC system looks like. This is called Electrical Numerical Integrator and Calculator. It was developed by University of Pennsylvania. It used 18,000 vacuum tubes, weighed 30 tons, and occupied 30 cross 50 feet of space. So you can imagine, there were various operators on each section. So they just completed the various circuits. So they connected, they closed the circuits through various wires, such as, from one panel to another panel, and that completed one operation. So you can imagine computing, even just calculating a very simple differential equation or a very complex an equation with some variables like 3 or 4. The computation will be thorough, will take a lot of time, but it will be able to handle it. So you can imagine, in those times this was very popular, but you can imagine now its relevance is nothing. But these are the building blocks how we actually came into existence, how these mobile phones and small sensors came into existence. Then Harvard Mark 1 was made, built in by the University of Harvard in 1944 with the support of IBM. You can see the sizes of these systems; they are huge. Use mechanical relay switches to represent data. It weighed 35 tons and required 500 miles of wiring. So you can imagine, even 5,000 rupees mobile will have more computation power from this. But the thing is that in those days, this was very much state of the art. So you can do various performances, various computations over these systems. They were very popular. So then IBM 360 frameworks came. Very popular mainframe computers in 1960s and 70s introduced many advanced architecture concepts that appeared in Microsoft several decades later. So here the things started miniaturizing. As you can see, it's much more, it's much clean, it's much cleaner than what we are seeing here. Then those connected wires, everything went inside. They have certain boxes, so they also went from here. I guess they started working on aesthetics as well. So are you guys with me? Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
then we delved into the modern age of uh, Intel Core processors, AMD processors, NVIDIA's, and everything. So everything got started miniaturizing. Every transistor size started getting very small, small, and very small. So modern processor chips that comes with dual core, quad core, 6 core, many variants, 64-bit processors that comes with microarchitectures like Hassel, Nehem, Sandy Bridge, and there's various generations of the Intel processors like 7th generation, 8th generation. They keep going on various modifications they do in their framework, and that's how the generations keep evolving. So अंदर की internal working कैसे होती है? These transistors are actually attached, and the chip designers actually make those circuits on some softwares, but the whole how those systems will be connected, various demuxes, muxes will be used, various adders will be used, various flip-flops, various other binary additions, and all those arithmetic operations which you have used. So those will be used in some sort of building blocks which we'll study in the computer organization, और उसका structure अपन इनके ऊपर बैठाते हैं. So those people need to actually define the whole circuit. So and those all systems actually get integrated into one of the processors. Like in modern days you have system on chips, you have lab on chips, you have various things. Like in the modern days you have various IoT systems. So in IoT systems में क्या हो सकता है कि you have all like for a home automation system, earlier you used to have various sensors such as infrared sensor, ultrasound sensor. You need to have say a camera sensor, a camera sensor in various lab color spaces. So all these were in different sensor modules. So you had 6 sensor modules. Now what they have achieved is actually integrated all those sensors into one chip, and that's what they call actually the system on chip. So you have the home automation system on one chip. So you can imagine just installing that one thing and you have the control over the whole house. So this is basic. Lab on chip is another example. Or lab on chip का example ये हो सकता है कि you have a DNA sequencing system which is basically working on the image processing of various DNA samples, and for that you needed a huge system earlier. In that you needed to insert a DNA sample. That system used to actually calculate what is the DNA sequence for it. So that whole system, which looks like 3 feet long, is now integrated on a very small chip that is called a lab on a chip. Various things which can be performed, since now it's on a chip, that can be integrated on your mobile phones, that can be integrated on a pen drive. So the handiness, the expandability, the portability, everything increases. So do you guys agree with me on this? तुमको लगता है ऐसा सही है? Do you guys agree?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so can anybody tell me a major disadvantage of doing this kind of a thing? Like we're integrating so many things into a very small chip. What can be the major disadvantage? या क्या अपना major drawback हो सकता है? What is the one thing which is prohibiting us from doing a lot of this on a very small chip? What is that? On the top of your mind क्या लगता है तुमको?
Sir, size constraints.
Size constraint क्या
So
होता
the
है पूरे lab?
possibility of being misused.
Sir, heating issues.
हाँ, हीटिंग इशू. तुम लोग मोबाइल फोन में भी यूज करते हो. मोबाइल फोन सबके पतले हो रहे हैं. काफी पहले बहुत मोटे फोन्स आते थे, बड़े आते थे, बट अब स्क्रीन पूरी रेशियो कवर करती है. स्क्रीन टू बॉडी रेशियो 97-95% होता है. लेकिन एक मेजर डिसएडवांटेज क्या होता है? हीटिंग इशू का होता है. और हीटिंग इशू हमेशा रहेगा. क्यों रह रहा है? कोई क्या लगता है? लॉजिकली क्या लगता है तुमको?
सर
Sir,
जगह
क्या
कम है
resistance है वहाँ?
और बहुत सारी चीजें हैं तो फिर ज्यादा हीट होगी ना, इसे निकलने की ज्यादा जगह नहीं है।
Yes, very good. हाँ, यही है concept, यही है. अब you can imagine a system like this. This was how much? 500 miles of wiring and around 30 to 50 feet of length and width. So इसमें heat dissipation, इसमें भी heating issue होता था. But you can imagine there is so much space, so you can actually control the heating issue in this by applying so big air conditioners and everything. अच्छा, uh, I guess everybody must have heard of crypto mining. Have you guys have heard of crypto mining? Cryptocurrency
Yes,
mine
sir.
करते हैं ना अपन.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Have you guys
Yes,
seen
sir.
how a crypto mining system setup looks like?
No.
YouTube पे है, videos हैं, you can guys can check. अच्छा, for a there are dedicated systems which comes for crypto mining, just for mining your cryptocurrency. Okay, there are some places where these kind of systems are employed with like in 10,000 numbers, in 50,000 numbers. So the major problem, just go and have a look on a YouTube video. I guess that was a Chinese cryptocurrency farm. It's a Vice documentary on that, so guys can check on that. Just look at the scale of that thing, and the major concern for them was heating issue, because so much heat was coming from all those computation, that they needed to install huge vacuum fans, so just to dissipate the whole heat from that system, from that whole warehouse. So the major issue everywhere is the heating one. Even if it's your small mobile phone, even if it's your CCTV camera, even if it's your small Raspberry Pi, or even if it's that cryptocurrency farm which has been employed there, everywhere the major problem is heating issue. Everybody is solving that only. So this is the problem which everybody faces when they integrate so many transistors into a very small area. So are you guys with me? कोई input कोई add करना चाहता है? Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is the official list how the generations look like. The first generations lasted from 45 to 54. It was majorly the building block of them was vacuum tubes and relays. Machine assembly language was the language through which we actually designed those systems and controlled those vacuum tubes and extracted some logic out of it. Then the second generation was basically based on transistors and memory and basically IO processors. Third generation had small scale integration, medium scale integration, integrated circuits on the microprogramming circuit board. Here, time sharing and multi programming concepts actually came into existence. Then fourth generation had Intel 8086 and 8088 microprocessors. Have you guys read of 8086, 8088 microprocessors? Anyone heard of this name? Has anybody heard of this name? Intel 8086, 8088?
No, sir.
These were the initial multiprocessors. These were the initial processors which Intel made. They had their instruction sets, they had their frameworks and everything. Nowadays, can anybody tell me what are the frameworks which are processor frameworks which are into existence? Any names?
Intel Core.
Yeah, and more?
x86.
x86, 64.
So
And
that's something you call Intel Ion or
sorry, Intel.
so recent preprocessor named Intel Ion, ION.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's a framework or not, or it's a yeah. Then ARM, has anybody heard of ARM? ARM? Has anybody heard of
Yes, sir.
ARM framework?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so these were various frameworks on which various processors are actually built, and according to your hardware need, these frameworks are chosen, and then some modifications are done on these frameworks, and then you complete your hardware requirement. Then the fifth generation was VLSI. This is a very famous term, very large scale integration, multiprocessors on chip. So you can imagine multiprocessors when the fourth generation were standalones, then those all multiprocessors were actually started existing on various chips. So you had various multiprocessors on chips. So this started happening in fifth generation. And why did it happen? Because of the miniaturization of the integration transistors. So they started becoming very small, and because of this, parallel processing came into existence in fifth generation. Why? Can anybody guess? यहाँ पे बहुत बड़ा hint है. Why in fifth generation parallel computing started making sense in fifth generation computers? On top of mind क्या लगता है? क्यों होने लग गया? टॉप ऑफ माइंड बोलो, कोई इशू नहीं है, बोलो आराम से बोलो, क्या लगता है?
We started using multiple processors.
या
Sir, like multi-threading वाली चीज भी आ गई, I guess.
मल्टी थ्रेडिंग तो नहीं, बट अपन प्रोसेसर्स अपन यूज कर पा रहे हैं एक ही चिप के ऊपर, तो यू कैन हैव डेडिकेटेड प्रोसेसर्स फॉर डेडिकेटेड प्रोसेसिंग. यू कैन हैव वन ऑपरेशन परफॉर्म्ड ऑन वेरियस अदर प्रोसेसर्स. इज इट राइट? एक जॉब को अपन अलग अलग प्रोसेसर्स पे दे सकते हैं जो कि एक ही सिस्टम पे एग्जिस्ट करता है. तो मल्टी प्रोसेसर का कंसेप्ट फिफ्थ जनरेशन में क्यों पाया? क्योंकि वी वर एबल टू इंटीग्रेट द मल्टी वेरियस प्रोसेसर्स ऑन अ सिंगल चिप. ठीक है. देन the various threading methodologies started came into existence, sixth generation, ultra large scale and everything. You can imagine, can anybody guess, थोड़ा किसी कोई इसमें इंटरेस्टेड होता है अगर जैसे कंप्यूटर हार्डवेयर के अंदर या मोबाइल हार्डवेयर के अंदर, what is the scale at which we are actually working right now? Transistor sizes या processor size? Sorry, voice is not clear.
5 nanometers.
Yeah, so you can imagine what is 5 nanometers. They are actually able to make 5 nanometers kind of a thing. So iske andar the laws of physics are actually getting hampered now. They are actually considering the people who are fabricating this kind of a processors and transistors, they have to take into consideration some quantum physics principles into it. Why? Because things are getting so small that the modern physics concepts, the classical physics concepts and the basic physics theories have started to diminish. Why? The things have started becoming so small. So they are going into territory of quantums now. So you can imagine the kind of integration they are able to do. The evolution of types of in your mobile systems also you have, I guess, I'm not sure, I read 8 nanometers, 7 nanometers processors were there, maybe smaller than that also, I'm not sure. Does anybody have any idea? Is it right? 7 nanometer?
Between 7.
Yeah. Which was the latest processor to which is the smallest one? 810 Bionic or something by Samsung?
Sir, it's Snapdragon 888.
888. Okay. What is the scale for it?
It's something around 7 or 5.
Yeah, 7. So you can imagine in your mobile devices they have this kind of technology integrated into it. So things are happening very fast. Very complex things are coming into your hands. So you can imagine the kind of work which you guys can do. और इसके अंदर की चीज़ें कैसे होती हैं, that is what we are going to read in this subject. So this is the future. Large scale IoT based systems will be there, lab on chips will be there, various system on chips will be there, variable computing, intelligent objects, various decision AI based, machine learning based systems will be there, so they will decide on their own. So you can imagine miniaturization happening now. Can anybody guess कि अभी तुम लोगों ने देखा 1980s 70s में मेन फ्रेम्स IBM 360s ENIACs का साइज इतना बड़ा था. अब तुम लोग के पास मोबाइल डिवाइसेस आ चुके हैं जो बहुत स्मॉल हैं, बहुत छोटे हैं. तो you can imagine the ratio between that is 30 feet and this is around what could say, this is around how much, 5 inches, 6 inches, 7 inches. So the ratio is come down to like 1:20, 1:25 or more than that, even more than that. Can anybody guess कि क्या लगता है in 10 to 15 years, maybe 15 years, what is that one computing thing which is existing right now which will go into that miniaturization zone? मतलब अभी वो बहुत बड़े हैं, अभी उनका स्केल बहुत बड़ा है right now, but in around 10 to 15 years we are going to have very small versions of those things. Can anybody guess? It's a computational thing, I'm asking. Can anybody
Sir,
guess?
batteries.
थोड़ा सा और मतलब कंप्यूटेशन की बात कर रहे हैं अपन. लेटेस्ट कंप्यूटेशन जो सबसे स्टेट ऑफ आर्ट कंप्यूटेशन किन चीज़ों पे हो रहा है, किसी को कोई आइडिया?
सुपर कंप्यूटर्स.
थोड़ा सा और. सुपर कंप्यूटर तो एग्जिस्ट कर ही रहे थे, अभी भी कर रहे हैं.
सर दैट quantum computers.
Yes, yes, quantum computers. Has anybody seen how does a quantum computer looks like?
Yes,
I
sir.
have seen a documentary on that Google one.
Yeah, Google one. They have achieved the what is that called? I'm not sure. They have achieved a very special
Quantum
threshold.
supremacy.
Yeah, quantum
Quantum.
supremacy. Yes, yes. So have you seen that? How does it look like? It looks very ugly. It is very big. Is it true? It's not ugly. It's beautiful in a sense, but it's very big. Why is it big? To maintain the quantum state of the quarks. Is it right?
Yes, sir.
So that the quark is actually in both states, is able to spin in both directions, and so to keep it in that condition, you need to have a super cooled environment. So that's why those complex. I'll suggest everyone to just go and look into those quantum. That video of quantum computing, we achieving quantum supremacy. That's a very huge thing because it's a kind of a thing which ENIACs, when ENIACs came into existence, people were excited. So we should all be excited about this also. That quantum, we have achieved quantum supremacy. So in 10 to 15 years, can you guys imagine those quantum things coming into our hands? कैन यू इमेजिन? लगता है ये जनरल ट्रेंड होगा जो अभी तक होते आया है, 60s से अभी तक होते आया है. डू यू एग्री विथ मी? What I think that will happen, because that's the need of the hour, क्योंकि कंप्यूटेशन भी उसी के अनुसार बढ़ रहा है. You can imagine everything is happening according to neural networks, machine learning, various complex neural networks, machine learning models are happening. The major complexity right now, people dealing with predicting weather. They were able to actually predict the protein folding problem. So various things they were able to achieve, and to solve all those things, you need very high computation powers. They did it through quantum computers. They are trying to deploy everything which is happening in this world, which has a complex algorithm, through quantum computers. They are trying to make quantum algorithms for that, algorithms which works on quantum computers. So we can imagine in 10 to 15 years everything will be based on those kind of computation. So what will happen, those hardwares will also get miniaturized. So in 10 to 15 years, you can imagine the power of quantum computing definitely coming onto your systems and handy devices. Do you guys agree with me on this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is how the motherboards looks like. They started going in the reverse direction. They're all very small. Pico, they're going in a very small devices. So you have Arduino devices right now. You have Raspberry Pis, very small Raspberry Pis. You have NVIDIA devices. They are very small. So size of the motherboards started going backwards. They are now very small. Because why? Because of the miniaturization and the small size of the transistors. So because of this, the existence of laptops and mobile phones came into existence. And this is a Moore's law. Have you guys studied Moore's law? Have any idea regarding Moore's law? Anyone? टॉप ऑफ द माइंड से बोलो, कोई पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है. पता है तुम लोग को?
No, sir.
No,
It
sir.
was like over the years, the size and the number of processors on a chip will go up.
Yeah,
Like the size will go down.
years,
and
2 years. See,
yeah, every
it was termed by Gordon Moore. By he was the co-founder of Intel. He actually studied various things, and he found a correlation. He found the study in his study that the pace, the number of transistors per square inch actually has to double in every year since its invention. But now the things are getting so small, the Moore's law is getting discarded. It's not getting followed. So this was the trend actually. You can see the Moore's law was holding till 2000, I guess 10 or something. Then it started not following it. Like in 24 months it should happen, but now it's happening in 18 months, less than that. So but these are all the various processor architectures. and this is the number of transistors per chip. So you can imagine. So these all numbers actually supported his claim. So this line is following that, but now it's not holding the Moore's law. So this was the actual statement. Notice that number of transistors per square inch on an integrated circuit has doubled every year since its invention, but now it's not able to hold. It's happening in 18 months. So this is how the basic this is called von Neumann architecture, and this is how your computer organization units are actually going to be paced. Firstly, you have the processor. It's going to interact with the memory, and you have various input output devices. So firstly, we'll read about the processor. How does the control unit, how the logical paths, how everything looks like inside that processor. Then we read about the various memory. Then we read about the pipelining. How does the various instruction sets, data is actually flow through the processor to various memories and everything, buses and all those things. Then we read about the memory. We read about how primary, secondary memory looks like, the various performance issues, how we can calculate the fetching of the data from the memory. What will be the computation? What will be the various efficiencies? How we're going to actually measure those things. Then in various input output devices we read, and then finally the whole thing how it can be parallelized. So that is the parallel processing we are going to read. So this is the whole syllabus. You can see this is how it's going to look like. इसको देख लो, यही अपन ये तुम लोग के दिमाग में एकदम क्लियर होना चाहिए. तो उससे क्या है, तुम्हारे यूनिट्स के बारे में तुमको क्लियरिटी आ जाएगी. यूनिट्स के बारे में क्लियरिटी आएगी तो उसके अंदर के कंसेप्ट भी क्लियर होते चले जाएंगे. ठीक है. दिस इज कॉल्ड von Neumann आर्किटेक्चर. इज इट क्लियर विथ एवरीवन? कोई डाउट है? एनीवन? ठीक है, कोई डाउट हो तो कोई पूछना, कोई इशू नहीं है. ठीक है. So I guess we should end here. This is how everything is going to look like. Or course handouts I'll share with you guys soon. Or Hemature book we are going to follow 6th edition, and for references you can go into Hennessy and Patterson. So yeah, hopefully this was interactive and you guys had some interest into it. Excited हो ये पढ़ने के लिए subject? Everyone? Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so yeah, we'll read about it. अच्छा लगेगा. कोई डाउट हो तो कोई इशू नहीं है, पूछना आराम से. ठीक है. थैंक यू एवरीवन. थैंक यू.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.